like and subscribe for more. The kind of thing you wouldn't notice unless you were watching a clock. But I was. I always am. My bedroom wall clock hit 9 p.m. and my phone said 8:57, then 8:58, then still 8:58. By 9:03, the second hand on the wall clock was still ticking. My phone stayed at 8:59. I checked the TV. Live news was playing, but the anchor's mouth was moving slightly out of sync with her voice, like a badly dubbed movie. I changed the channel. Same thing. Every station. I told myself it was fatigue. I hadn't slept much, maybe just noticing things that weren't there. But then the emergency alert came through. Emergency alert, National Weather Service. The night will be longer than expected. Please remain indoors until further notice. This is not a drill. No siren, just the notification. I flipped through the news, expecting to see something: storms, chemical leak, nuclear test, anything. But every anchor seemed oddly calm. Too calm. One just stared silently at the camera, eyes a little too wide. As the screen scrolled, "Please stay indoors," on repeat below her. It wasn't even her segment. She just sat there. I shut the TV off. Outside my apartment window, the city looked normal. Lights on in other buildings. A bus passed. A guy walked his dog across the street. Everything looked fine. But the sound was off, muted. No cars honking. No wind through the trees. No footsteps. Not even the faint buzz of the street lamps. It felt like being inside a photograph. I texted some friends, joked about the alert. No one replied, which honestly wasn't weird, until I noticed none of my texts had delivered under them. No signal issues, just pending. I went to call someone, anyone, but paused when I looked at the screen. No contacts. No recent calls. No Wi-Fi networks found. Everything was wiped. I stood there, phone in hand, not even sure when I started shaking. It didn't feel dangerous, not yet, but I suddenly had this creeping, rising sense that the world had tilted, just slightly, just enough that I was the only one who noticed, like everyone else was following a script, and I'd stepped off the stage. Sleep. The alert didn't say not to, but something about it made the idea of sleep feel wrong, like leaving a door unlocked. I kept thinking about the phrase, "The night will be longer than expected." What does that even mean? Longer than what? By 1 a.m., my clocks and devices had completely desynced. My phone said 12:47. My microwave said 1:52. The wall clock ticked backward for 3 seconds before correcting itself. Outside, the street remained still. Too still. Not a single car had passed since midnight. Not a single person walked by. Not even a flicker of movement from any apartment window across the block. Just frozen light and silence. Then the sound started. Faint, almost imperceptible, like static, but deeper, low and distant, like it was being dragged through water. It came from the floor beneath me. Not the neighbor's apartment, beneath that. Something lower. I leaned down and pressed my ear to the wood. The static was mixed with something else. A wet clicking, like claws tapping against concrete, or teeth. I backed away slowly and checked my hallway. The light above the door had gone out. Not flickered, just off. The bulb was fine, but no power reached it, like the apartment was rearranging itself in ways I wasn't meant to notice. Then came the knock. 3 soft taps. Not on my door. On my window. I live on the 4th floor. I froze. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I didn't dare look. The knock came again. Slower this time. Not impatient. Not threatening. Just steady. Curious. Then silence. Another buzz from my phone. Emergency update. If you heard knocking, do not investigate. Do not open doors or windows. The night may be longer still. I dropped the phone. I didn't even feel it leave my hand. Something was inside the walls. I could hear it breathing stopped. Not gradually, just gone. Like someone held their breath the moment I started listening too hard. I stood in the middle of the room, staring at nothing. Not sure what I was waiting for. Maybe I thought if I stayed perfectly still, the moment would pass. That whatever was behind the walls would move on. Then I noticed something else. My phone was gone. I hadn't left the room. I hadn't taken a step. But the phone, which I'd dropped right near my feet, had simply vanished. No sound, no vibration, just not there anymore. I should have panicked. Should have started tearing the room apart. But instead, my eyes drifted to the TV. It was on again. I never touched the remote. No sound came through. Just a man on the screen, sitting behind a desk like it was a news broadcast. But the set was wrong. The walls behind him were concrete, cracked, wet. lit by a single, bare bulb swaying above his head. He looked like someone who had spent weeks underground. Skin too pale, lips chapped and split. He stared directly into the camera. And he spoke. No sound came from the TV, but I heard him behind me. His voice didn't echo from the speaker. It came from my apartment. He said, "Do not leave. Do not speak. Do not turn on the lights." Then he smiled like something broke inside his face. The screen went black. All the lights in the apartment flicked off at once. Every bulb, every appliance, even the red dot on my stove. I didn't move. I didn't scream. I just stood there in the dark, gripping the edge of the kitchen counter, trying to breathe as quietly as possible. Then I felt it. The floor beneath my bare feet, breathing again. Not just sound now, movement. Like something massive shifting just below the surface, like muscle stretching under skin. The apartment building didn't shake. Only my floor. I backed into the hallway, step by silent step. My eyes adjusted to the dark just enough to see my bedroom door slowly creak open by itself. And inside, just inside, I saw something moving, crouched low to the ground. It didn't look up, but it knew I was there. I backed away from the bedroom, keeping my eyes locked on the thing crawling just beyond the doorway. It moved slow, purposeful, like it already knew there was no rush. Like it had time to enjoy this. It didn't have a face, just pale, slack skin shifting over bone that wasn't there. I didn't look twice. I ran. The hallway was dark, but I wasn't the only one awake. I heard movement, doors slamming, footsteps. Somewhere above, someone whispered, "Another person, thank God." I looked up the stairwell. A man leaned over the railing on the next floor, breathing hard. His face looked soaked, like he'd come out of a storm, but his clothes were dry. His eyes met mine, and I could tell he was trying to speak, but no sound came out. Then he jerked backward. Gone, like someone had yanked him out of the frame. A second later, something hit the floor near me. A phone, cracked screen, still on. Emergency alert, building status unstable. Do not use elevators. Do not use stairwells unless absolutely necessary. Do not attempt to leave floor 4. Floor alignment may be compromised. I didn't care. I ran up anyway. I knew the 5th floor had people. I'd heard them before. Music, shouting, life. I hit the door to the 5th floor. Everything looked almost normal. The hallway had the same layout, same lights, but all the doors were wrong. No numbers, no peepholes, no signs of anyone ever living there. The paint looked slightly off color, like it had faded under a different sky. And the windows, where they should have been, were just black voids. Not darkness, void, like looking into a place light was never meant to reach. I turned around. The door I came through? Gone, replaced by smooth wall. I wasn't on floor 5, not anymore. I was somewhere that looked like floor 5. I banged on a door, then another, louder. Hello, anyone? Open the door, please! Silence. Then a voice behind one of the doors, close, quiet. A whisper. You should not have come up. Then slower. Don't turn around. It learns faster when you look at it. Something behind me moved. Not fast, not loud. Just enough to let me know it was very close. I didn't turn around. Not because I was brave, because my body wouldn't let me. That whisper still echoed in my head. It learns faster when you look at it. My lungs locked. My knees nearly buckled. Something behind me was breathing so close it stirred the hair on my neck. Then I heard the door. Not the one behind me. The one in front of me. It opened. A hand reached out. Human, pale. A man yanked me inside and slammed the door shut behind me. 3 locks clicked. A bolt slid home. For a second, all I could hear was both of us breathing. Then the man spoke. Fast, whispering like every sound might get him killed. You came from the 4th floor? He asked. I nodded. You shouldn't be here. They're spreading upward. I looked around. The apartment was mostly dark. Windows sealed, mirrors covered. 2 other people were inside, a woman curled up on the couch clutching a knife. A younger guy pacing near the kitchen with a fire extinguisher clutched in both hands. None of them were bleeding. That made them the most alive people I'd seen all night. What's spreading? I asked. The man pointed at the floor. They don't break in, he said. They come up. Through vents, drains, floorboards, you'll hear scratching first. Then they test the locks. Did anyone call the cops? Try it, he said, handing me a phone. No dial tone, just static. Then a voice came through. Not from the phone, from the kitchen sink. Let me in. It was my voice. We all froze. The drain clicked. Then rattled. The metal flexed like something beneath it was pushing against the pipe. "Is that—" I started. "No one opens anything," the man hissed. "Not windows, not doors, not drawers. It can become voices." We backed into the living room. I noticed the woman had drawn chalk lines around the windows and vents. Little salt piles on the sill. Not religious, precautionary. "We tried escaping," the woman finally whispered. Third floor guy ran for the stairs. I swallowed. "What happened to him?" She looked at me for a long time. "He came back," she said. "Then what?" She shook her head. That wasn't him. We stayed in the living room. No one spoke. Not after the voice in the drain used mine. The woman, her name was Dara, kept her eyes on the vent above the couch. Every few minutes it would click, like metal shifting under pressure. Like something small crawling through the ductwork, testing each bolt. The guy with the fire extinguisher, Caleb, stood at the peephole. "It's just standing there," he whispered. "What is?" "The thing outside the door." I walked over slow. "Don't get too close," the man, Greg, warned. "It doesn't knock to be let in. It knocks to remind you it's already out there." I ignored him. I had to see. I leaned in and looked through the peephole. Nothing at first, just the hallway, light flickering. Then out of nowhere, a face slid into view, inches away from the door. Its eyes locked straight into mine, like it knew where I'd look. It smiled, wide, too wide. Then it whispered through the door, "Elias." That's my name. It didn't say it like it read it off mail. It said it like it knew me, like it had known me for years. It raised a hand, long fingers. Skin stretched wrong over the bones and gently tapped the door. Tap, tap, tap. Behind me, Dara started sobbing. Not loud, just little gasps. Greg went to cover her mouth and whispered, "Don't let it know who's scared." The tapping stopped. I looked through the peephole again. The hallway was empty. Then, boom, something slammed against the wall behind us. Not the front door. Inside the apartment. The bathroom. We all spun. Greg motioned for silence. Another bang, like a body hitting the tile. Then the voice again, muffled, wet. "Elias, you left the door unlocked." I didn't. I swear I didn't. Greg grabbed a crowbar and nodded to Caleb. We crept to the bathroom door, slow. The metal handle was ice cold. Greg counted to 3 with his fingers. 1, 2, 3. He yanked the door open. Nothing inside. Just a faint trail of blood smeared across the mirror. Handprints. Some small, some long. One of them was mine. But I hadn't touched it. Then Caleb said, "Guys." We turned. He was staring at the living room. The front door was open exactly 3 inches. No one heard it unlock. And just outside that crack, something waited, breathing like it belonged here. The front door was open, just enough to show a sliver of the hallway. No one had touched the locks. No one heard the deadbolt click. It just opened, and something was still standing behind it, breathing, low, heavy, guttural, like lungs full of wet cement. Greg raised the crowbar and inched forward. I saw his hands trembling. Dara begged him in a whisper not to go near it. But Caleb didn't listen. He charged the door. "Get the hell out!" he shouted, swinging the fire extinguisher at full force. The door flew open. I didn't even see the thing, just a blur. Skin the color of raw meat. A noise like wet towels slapping tile. Then blood sprayed across the hallway. Caleb was yanked out. Yanked. 1 second he was there, the next he was gone, screaming. Then the screaming stopped. We all ran to the door, but Greg yanked us back. "No," he barked. "Don't look. Don't give it that." I looked anyway. The hallway was empty again. But Caleb's body was still there. Sort of. What was left of him had been stuffed into the garbage chute at the end of the hall. His legs had been folded upward into his chest. Bones split outward. Spine visible. One arm torn off and jammed halfway down. The chute like it was still trying to crawl free. Blood smeared along the floor in 2 long drag marks. The worst part? His face was still intact, eyes open, mouth wide in a frozen scream, but no vocal cords. They'd been ripped out. Dara threw up in the sink. Greg slammed the door shut and relocked it. Deadbolt, chain, bar. Then the power went out. Just a pop, and darkness swallowed the apartment. But we could still hear the thing outside the door. It made a wet clicking sound, like teeth trying to learn how to form words. And then it tried again. "Elias!" But this time 3 voices said it at once against the door in pitch-black silence. The power hadn't just cut out. It was dead. Even Greg's flashlight refused to turn on, flickering like the batteries were soaked. Outside, footsteps dragged across the hallway, slow, uneven like something dragging a limp limb behind it. But there were more than one now. 2, 3, maybe more. And then we heard it. "Elias, let me in." Caleb's voice. Perfect calm, no screams this time. But Caleb was dead. We saw what was left of him. Bones bent like wire, ribs cracked open like flower petals. No one could survive that. No one should sound that casual after being folded in half. Greg whispered, "Don't answer it. It learns faster when you respond." Dara stared straight ahead, face pale and wet with sweat. She held her knife like she wanted to use it on herself, before whatever was outside could get to her. The voice spoke again. "You're not safe in there." Tap, tap, tap. It was touching the door. Then we heard another sound, metal groaning. Greg spun toward the back of the apartment. The bathroom vent was unscrewing. No one was touching it. I ran to the kitchen for something sharp, anything. I grabbed a steak knife, and that's when I saw it. A hand in the sink. Thin, white, twitching. It was trying to pull itself out. Flesh stretched around the drain. The metal hissing as something wet forced its way up. First fingers, then the wrist, then an elbow that bent the wrong way, bone sticking out in a slick curve. I stabbed at it with the knife. It screamed, not from the sink, but from everywhere. A horrible, high-pitched shriek that echoed through the pipes. The walls, the vents, like metal crying. Blood sprayed the ceiling. But it wasn't red. It was black, thick like oil, smoking. Greg kicked the vent shut just as something inside started laughing. Not human, not even pretending anymore. That sound wasn't trying to fool us. It was enjoying this. The floorboards under Dara's feet started to bulge. Something beneath us was pushing up or under Dara cracked. Not creaked, cracked, like bone under a tire. She jumped back just as a long, blackened finger pushed through the laminate, curling like a fishhook. Greg grabbed her and pulled her away, but we were already too late. The thing underneath had found us. More fingers came next. Then a hand split through the palm, leaking that thick, hot black fluid. It curled against the floor and pulled, forcing something even worse through the boards. Caleb's face, or what used to be his face. It was stitched together with something like wire. Not medical wire, barbed. His jaw dangled open, held together by knots of torn flesh. One eye was missing. The other still moved. It looked at me and spoke. "You left me. I screamed your name." I screamed back and stabbed it in the eye. It didn't die, just howled, shrill and ragged, and the rest of it pushed through, a body made of parts. Caleb's legs, someone else's arms, a torso that looked too long, like the spine kept growing after death. Dara threw her knife. It sank into the chest and stuck, but the thing didn't even flinch. It charged. Greg tackled it with the crowbar, driving it back through the hole, but it grabbed his leg. We heard the snap, bone, sharp and loud. Greg went down screaming. The thing bit into his calf. Not with teeth, just its mouth. The whole thing stretched open, skin peeling like paper soaked in acid, and swallowed the muscle right off the bone. Blood sprayed across the wall in a mist. I pulled Greg back and slammed a chair down on the thing's head again and again, until it slipped beneath the floorboards, dragging the chewed part of his leg with it. Greg passed out. Dara wrapped his leg with a bedsheet, but the blood soaked through almost instantly, and then the hallway went silent again. No footsteps, no breathing, just the voice. We're inside now, still breathing, but barely. His leg was shredded, muscle torn off in wet, flapping strips. The bleeding wouldn't stop. Dara tied the sheet tighter, her hands soaked in red. Then she froze. Her eyes locked on the hallway leading to the bedroom. "Where's Caleb's body?" she whispered. I looked too. The thing that came up through the floor, the one with Caleb's pieces, we never saw it go back down. We just saw it disappear into the dark. And now, footsteps. Slow, careful. Something was walking back toward us. Dara raised her knife. "Greg," she whispered. "If you're conscious, don't say a word. Don't even move." I grabbed the crowbar. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. The thing stepped into view. It looked like Caleb. Clothes torn. Blood caked in the creases of his neck. His head tilted slightly to one side, like the spine wasn't connected right. But his face, it was nearly perfect. He smiled. "Hey guys," he said, voice calm. Too calm. I don't know what happened. I blacked out. "Where's Greg?" He took a step closer. Something crunched under his foot. A tooth. His. Still bloody. I held the crowbar up. Stay there.
What? It's me, Elias. Come on, man.
You know me. I saw your body.
You saw something wearing my face. Then take off your shirt, Dara said suddenly.
Show us your back.
He paused. Then he smiled wider.
Too wide.
Why would I do that? He said.
Dara didn't wait.
She lunged. Knife sunk straight into his stomach. He screamed, not in pain, but in rage, and split open down the middle. Skin peeling like cooked meat. Dozens of black arms unfolded from inside his chest, each one barbed and still twitching, like they were trying to remember what human motion felt like. It didn't fall. It kept coming. I swung the crowbar. It cracked bone, real bone, but the thing didn't stop. It grabbed Dara, slammed her into the wall so hard the drywall collapsed around her. Then it turned to me and spoke in my voice. There's more of us now. I didn't kill it. I hit it. I stabbed it. I crushed its throat with the crowbar until the bone cracked like dry wood. It kept smiling. When it lunged again, Dara pulled herself from the wall, broken and bleeding, and drove the knife into the thing's spine. It screamed, not with one voice, but with 5. The arms inside its chest flailed. Flesh peeled away. Something inside burned, like it couldn't hold the skin together anymore. It collapsed, twitching, still alive, still watching. We dragged Greg into the kitchen. His leg looked worse. Black veins had started spreading up his thigh. Dara said nothing. She just pressed her forehead against the fridge and breathed. Then the power came back. Every light in the apartment flickered on. The TV buzzed. The screen was black at first. Then white letters appeared. Not from a channel, not from a broadcast, just text. Emergency alert system. This is not a test. The message changed. Unidentified hostile bioforms confirmed. Containment failure imminent. Full breach in 4 hours, 0 minutes. My stomach turned. Then it updated again. If you are indoors, remain still. Do not trust voices through walls, drains, or devices. Do not attempt escape. They have learned to mimic sound. They are inside. The screen went black again. And then it showed something else. A live video feed. Our hallway, right outside our apartment. 3 figures stood there facing the door. One was naked, soaked in blood. One wore Caleb's skin like a suit, still stitched up the front. The third was someone I hadn't seen before. But they looked just like me. It tilted its head, grinned, and whispered. 3 hours, 59 minutes. That's what the alert said. But the seconds didn't tick. There was no timer. Just that number, hanging over us like a threat written in blood. We barricaded the apartment. Fridge, couch, dresser, anything we could move, we dragged in front of the door. Dara's ribs were broken. She couldn't speak without choking on her own breath. Greg drifted in and out, whispering things under his breath, things that didn't sound like English anymore. The veins in his leg had gone pitch black. I checked the hallway camera again. The thing that looked like me hadn't moved. Still staring, still smiling, still whispering to itself. But this time it turned to the camera, and it spoke. I remember the creek behind your house. You carved your name into the tree when you were 9. You used your dad's hunting knife. You said it made you feel strong. My heart stopped. That wasn't public. That wasn't online. That was mine. Then it added, you told no one about the bird you buried. But I saw you cry. Dara looked up. Her eyes were wide. What is that thing? She asked. I couldn't answer. The camera glitched. The other 2 figures were gone now. Just the copy of me, pressing its forehead to the lens. Its face smeared across the glass. Stretching wrong, skin bending like rubber over broken bones. The power flickered again. Then Greg started to laugh. Not soft, not light. Wrong. Like something was laughing through him. Dara and I turned. He was sitting up. His eyes had rolled back, just white sockets now, and his skin was turning gray. Veins bulging, skin splitting along his arms. It's warm inside me, he whispered. Then his jaw unhinged, and something else started crawling out. Greg anymore. Whatever had taken root in his body bloomed fast, skin splitting from his ribs like overripe fruit, blood hissing as it hit the cold tile. His spine buckled backward with a sickening pop, pop, pop. Joints snapping one after the other like they were never meant to bend that way. Then something crawled out of his mouth. It wasn't an arm. It was a face. Smooth, skinless, pinned with twitching black teeth and eyes that didn't blink. Dara screamed. The thing that was once Greg stood up, bone clicking into place, back arching until his head dragged across the ceiling. Black fluid poured from every orifice. His voice sounded like it came from the base of his throat and the bottom of a well. "Open the door." I grabbed the crowbar. Dara stumbled to her feet, coughing up blood. We had maybe seconds before it reached us. I swung hard. The bar cracked into Greg's head with a crunch. A chunk of skull went flying. He didn't fall. He laughed. Then Dara screamed again, not from pain, but panic. The front door was opening. Click. The deadbolt unlocked. Snap. The chain slid free. Kriak. The door opened 2 inches. No one touched it, but a hand, my hand, reached through the gap. It pushed the door open slowly, and standing there was me. Same face, same clothes. Even the little scar on my chin from when I fell off my bike at 12. But this version of me was soaked in something. Not sweat, not blood, oil. Thick, black, and bubbling. He stepped into the room. Greg, or what was left of him, bowed its head. Submission. The copy of me smiled. You never should have ignored the first alert. It stepped over Greg's body, if you can even call it a body anymore. That thing was just a shell now. Broken open and leaking, spine twisted like barbed wire. Black veins still pulsing. The thing wearing my face stared right at me. It didn't speak with a voice. It spoke with my voice. You're going to aim low, try to sweep my leg and make Dara run. You think you're buying time? You're not. I froze, because that's exactly what I was about to do. The thing grinned. It raised its hand, my hand, and held up the key to our apartment. My old spare. I lost it months ago. How long has it been watching? It took another step, and something inside its skin shifted. Like it was filled with others. Things that twitched and pushed against the flesh, trying to come out. Like it wasn't wearing a mask, it was the mask. Dara pulled the knife from her boot and lunged. The copy didn't flinch. It caught her by the throat, gently, like it was holding something fragile. You break here. It looked at me. This is when you panic. This is when you let her go to save yourself. I didn't move. I couldn't. Dara's eyes bulged. The knife dropped from her hand. Blood trickled down her neck where the fingers dug in deeper, pushing under the skin like roots. I snapped. Swung the crowbar. The copy caught it midair. I know all your strength. I know where your fear sits. I live in the moment you break. Then it let go of Dara and shoved me backward through the drywall. I landed hard, shoulder popping from its socket. The world spun. I heard Dara screaming. Heard something wet hit the wall. Then I heard her crawl, limping toward me, bloody but not dead. We couldn't stay. I looked toward the kitchen. The fire escape window. The only way out. We ran. Behind us, the copy whispered, its voice layered with dozens more now, each one shaped like me. Run all you want. This ends where it started. You, alone, in the dark. We burst through the kitchen window, glass shattering around us, slicing my arms and Dara's cheek. The cold hit us like a slap. Thick air, heavy, wrong. It didn't feel like night anymore. It felt like the world had stopped breathing. The fire escape groaned under our weight. Rusted metal, wet with black sludge leaking down. The wall, like the building itself, was rotting from the inside. Above us, windows were shattered. Curtains fluttered like torn skin. One floor up, someone was pressed against the glass, screaming silently. Mouth open wide, face covered in blood. They pounded the glass, then vanished, yanked backward by something too fast to see. Dara didn't speak. We didn't look at each other. We just climbed, but the stairwell below us creaked. I looked down. Someone else was following. Not running, crawling, on all fours, backwards. Its joints bent wrong, fingers dragging metal like nails on a chalkboard. It didn't have a face, just skin stretched tight where eyes and mouth should be, like it hadn't decided who it wanted to look like yet. I climbed faster. The window to the 3rd floor was shattered. I helped Dara in, then slipped through, cutting my side on the broken frame. Inside, the hallway was covered in blood. Not splattered, painted. Symbols, smeared in red across the walls. And floor. Circles, teeth, shapes that hurt to look at. Bodies littered the hall. Most were skinned. Some were moving. Not alive, just twitching, like meat remembering what life used to feel like. And at the end of the hallway, the elevator door was open. Inside stood a woman, back turned, still, dressed in white. She looked untouched. Dara whispered, "Don't go near her." But the woman turned slowly, head tilting like it was too heavy for her neck, and smiled. It was my mother's face. She'd been dead for 10 years. Move. The woman in the elevator had my mother's face. Not a cheap copy, not a mask. It was her. Her eyes, her mouth, the tiny scar on her temple from when she fell off the porch in '97. She took a step forward. "Sweetheart," she said. "Look at you. All grown up." My knees nearly buckled. Dara grabbed my wrist. "That's not her." But I couldn't look away. My chest ached. My eyes burned. My mother had been dead a decade, buried in a closed casket because there wasn't enough of her left to show. She opened her arms. "Come here, baby." Her voice trembled like she'd just stopped crying. Behind us, the crawling thing reached the window. It pulled itself inside, quiet as breath. Dara raised the knife. The mother thing took another step and smiled wider. Her lips cracked at the corners. Blood ran down her chin. "I'm so proud of you." She tilted her head, and her neck split open with a wet tear. A dozen fingers pushed out, grasping at the air like worms searching for light. Dara screamed. I swung the crowbar, but it passed through her like fog. And then her face fell off, literally peeled, flopping down like wet paper. Beneath it, not bone, not even muscle, just a hole, black, teeth-lined. Something inside snapped forward, a long, tendrilled tongue covered in human eyes, each one bloodshot and blinking. It wrapped around Dara's waist, pulled her into the elevator. I lunged, grabbed her hand. We both screamed. Her body was being crushed, ribs cracking, eyes bulging, until she drove the knife straight into the tongue. It hissed, all the eyes blinked shut at once, and it dropped her. The elevator slammed shut. We collapsed on the floor, choking on blood, glass in our arms, lungs barely working. Then, down the hallway, every apartment door creaked open at once. And people stepped out. All of them looked like someone I loved. Every door on the third floor stood open, and from each one someone stepped out. I saw my grandfather, dead 12 years, dragging a cane he didn't need anymore. My childhood best friend, Sarah, who vanished in the woods when we were 11. My high school teacher who shot himself in his classroom after a parent conference. My ex. They walked into the hallway slow, smiling, their bodies wrong. Too tall, too smooth, too complete. Dara clutched my arm. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. My ex, the thing wearing her, was the first to speak. "Hey, you still cry in your sleep?" My stomach turned. "I liked it," she whispered. "Made me feel needed." Another voice joined in. My grandpa. "You buried me too shallow." The dogs tried to dig me up. His hands were gone. Just stumps dripping red. More of them came. Some crawled. Some dragged themselves by strands of tendon. Some were perfect, untouched, like they'd just stepped out of a memory. All of them were watching me. Dara whispered, "Don't listen. They're trying to break you. They want her to," one of them said. It looked like Dara's mom. Mouth stitched shut, skin pulsing with things underneath. Dara froze. "Don't," I said. "It's not real." But she was already backing away, trembling. The thing that looked like her mom raised its arms. "They told me what she did," it rasped. "How she watched you drown in the tub and didn't pull you out." Dara's scream shattered the silence. The lights above us flickered, then burst, glass raining down. I grabbed her and ran. Through the broken hallway, past bleeding walls, over bodies that weren't dead but waiting. We reached the stairwell, but the lights there were already off. And in the dark, something laughed. A chorus of voices, all of them mine. The stairwell swallowed us whole. Pitch black. No light switches, no windows, only the sound. Tap, tap, tap. Our footsteps, echoing loud in the emptiness. But beneath that, something else. Tap, tap. Closer. I spun around. Nothing but shadows. Dara grabbed my arm. "Don't stop moving," she whispered. We climbed, step after step. The laughter from the hallway faded. But now, a new sound rose. Whispers. My voice. Calling my name. The air grew thick. It smelled like rot and cold iron. Suddenly, the steps beneath us shook. Concrete crumbled. Dust poured down like rain. I caught Dara before she fell. Below us, I heard something growl. Deep, hungry. The stairwell wasn't endless. It was a trap. And whatever hunted us was closing in. The whispers grew louder. My own voice, but twisted, laughing, crying, screaming, sometimes all at once. The walls began to weep. Dark, sticky blood seeped from cracks, running down in thick rivulets. The smell hit me like a punch, metallic and raw. Dara gagged, clutching her mouth. I reached out to steady her. But my hand passed through the wall, like it was made of smoke. The stairs beneath us cracked. I looked down. The concrete split, jagged edges tearing through the air. The growl below turned into a roar. Something was clawing its way up. And behind us, a single step echoed, then another. I dared a glance. Nothing. Then, a face appeared in the darkness. Not human. Mouth wide, filled with rows of jagged teeth, eyes black pools that swallowed light. It smiled and whispered, "Come back." The cracks beneath us widened. The floor trembled, like the building itself was dying. Dara screamed as the step ahead collapsed. She caught herself on the railing, blood dripping from a fresh cut. I reached for her, but my fingers grazed empty air. The thing below howled, a sound that rattled my bones. Behind us, the footsteps grew louder, faster, closing in. I grabbed Dara's hand, pulling her up the stairs. But the railing snapped under my weight. We both tumbled backward, falling through darkness. I hit the ground hard. Pain exploded in my side. Dara landed beside me, gasping. Above, the stairwell groaned, then silence. The thing's voice whispered in my ear, "You can't escape the night." I lay on the cold concrete, every breath burning my lungs. Dara's hand squeezed mine, weak but alive. The darkness pressed in, thick and suffocating, not just outside, but inside my skull. Whispers flooded my mind, voices I recognized, friends, family, people long gone. They begged. They pleaded. They blamed. My vision blurred. The world twisted into shadow and blood. Then I saw it, inside me. A black tendril creeping from my chest, slithering toward my throat. I clawed at my shirt, but the darkness spread fast. Dara shook me. "Fight it! Don't let it take you." I fought back, pulling at the black tendril as if it was a rope strangling me. The black tendril wasn't just shadow. It was poison. Every breath I took felt heavier, like something was spreading inside me, crawling under my skin. My limbs ached, sometimes stiff, sometimes burning. I looked in a cracked mirror nearby. My reflection wasn't right. Eyes too dark. Smile twitching when I didn't move my lips. Dara caught me staring. "You don't look good." I tried to speak. My voice sounded hollow, like I was echoing from somewhere else. Suddenly the lights flickered. Shadows twisted behind me. I spun around. Nothing there. But when I faced the mirror again, the reflection grinned wider and blinked. On its own. The grin in the mirror stretched beyond reason, too wide, too sharp. I reached out, fingers trembling. The glass rippled beneath my touch like water. A cold hand shot out from inside the mirror. It grabbed my wrist, dragging me forward. I screamed, but the reflection pulled me closer. I felt cold seep into my bones, darkness spreading through my veins. Then the glass shattered. I stumbled back. Dara rushed to me, eyes wide with terror. "You're changing," she whispered. I looked down. Black veins crept across my skin, slow but relentless. My heart hammered. I wasn't sure how much of me was left. The hallway stretched before us, endless and bleeding. Behind us, the things I once called family, friends, and memories whispered promises of mercy I didn't want. Dara gripped my arm tighter. "We face this now, together." I nodded, feeling the dark pulse beneath my skin. A poison I couldn't stop but had to control. The elevator doors ahead slid open. Inside stood the source. A towering shadow with too many eyes, watching, waiting. It spoke in 1,000 voices, mine and others. "Welcome back. You can't run from what you are." I raised the crowbar, heart pounding. This was the last night, the last fight. The night would end. When I did, the shadow stepped forward, eyes burning with every face it had stolen. It laughed, an endless hollow sound that shook the walls. I swung the crowbar with everything I had, smashing into its shifting form. It howled, splitting into dozens of crawling hands that clawed at my skin, tearing flesh. Pain exploded everywhere, blood poured down my arms, mixing with the dark that now lived inside me. Dara screamed, fighting off the hands reaching for her. But then, through the chaos, I felt something inside me break, a sudden clarity. The darkness wasn't just a curse. It was power. Power I could use. I pushed back, shoving the black tendrils from my veins into the shadow. It screamed, reeling, losing its hold. With one last strike, I crushed its core. The thing shattered like glass, faces screaming as they faded into silence. The world tilted. Dara caught me as I collapsed. Light poured into the hallway. The blood washed away. The walls healed. But as I looked at my hands, black veins pulsed faintly beneath my skin. The horror wasn't gone. It was waiting.